children going back to school, though, I mean, we're kind of all talking about that too. This really can be a tough time of year for families that are experiencing divorce.
That's right. So here to talk about how to get the school year off to a very smooth start is family law attorney Alan Plevy. Thank you, Alan, for coming.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Who would have thought, especially when you're first getting the divorce, that this was something that would become a major topic? How do we divide up how to pay for the school supplies?
I get a lot of calls about that, especially now, and why wasn't it taken care of? It's some things that are lost in the weeds. But across the DMV now, today, this month, people are buying supplies for their children. And we're not just talking about glue sticks and pencils, we're talking about laptops and tablets and musical instruments, athletic equipment, stuff. And that can get very pricey. And how's it going to be taken care of? Who's going to pay for it? That's the problem. That becomes a stress for the parents. And that stress develops into the children, and that hurts them.
And obviously, if it's something, and if finances are always a sticking point, right? Always a point of contention. But if you're in the process of getting divorced, maybe that's something you really need to make sure is clear in the decree. But does child support cover any of those types of expenses? How does that work?
No, child support covers necessities. A roof over your head, food on the table, clothing, basic clothing, not athletic clothing, and basic necessities, and the coverage for health insurance.
Right, okay.
And that becomes a problem, because if you don't address that now in an agreement or in a court order, and a lot of times it's not addressed, then you've got to count on the cooperation of the other party. And both parties need to sit down and say, okay, fine, this is for our child. Neither one of us are going to benefit from this, except for our child will be better for this. And that's what you got to keep in mind.
Let's say it wasn't decided, and now you're in this situation, you're buying everything for back to school. What do you recommend parents do now as they're warring back and forth of who's paying this receipt and who's paying the other?
Well, when you wrote the agreement, you had a 5-year-old. Now you got a 13-year-old.
Right, things change.
And you're thinking about, well, why didn't we think about this? Because you don't know what the child's interests are going to be. But you got to sit down and, you know, what sports is the child going to play in? What instruments the child's going to play? What does the child need for school? Is it a laptop? A lot of schools now allow you to bring your phones to school because they're smartphones, and they give you the assignments on the phone. So, you know, are we going to get a phone for the child? And that becomes a very important thing. And how much is it going to cost? How much can you afford to spend? Don't spend more than you can. But think about it, and then think about how you're going to divide it up. A lot of people can do 50-50. We'll just split it down the middle, and that'll be it. Some people will do it based upon their income shares, on your insurance. You have, if one person's got 60% of the income, the other person's got 40% of the income, well, split up the cost that way. And that's based upon your income shares.
Well, obviously, these types of discussions are a two-way street, and unfortunately, both parties don't always agree. So if they get to a situation where one person thinks it should be 50-50, but you make more than I do, so it should be 66-33, what do you recommend that they do to kind of help? What's their next step to come to an agreement?
Split the baby. I'm sorry, ladies.
Remember, it's your child.
It is your child.
They need
All
this.
for the kid, not for you.
And if you're saying it's going to be 50-50 and the other one says it's going to be something different, see if you can meet in the middle somewhere. Or otherwise, get what you can get.
Right.
Yeah. And you also mentioned when you buy the big items, the computer, it needs to be at both houses. You don't have to say, you can only have this here in my house.
The child needs the computer or the laptop, whatever it may be, for both homes where they're going to be doing their work. Whether it's a weekend schedule or a week-to-week schedule, the child's going to need it, just like the child's going to need the instrument.
Yeah.
We also have tutoring expenses, too, and taking the child to tutoring. Well, I don't want the child to go to tutoring, so I'm not going to take the child. We're talking about your child here, and that's what the most important thing is.
I think that's what sometimes gets lost in all the discussions, is that this is about your child. It's not about you. It's not about your ex. It's about the child.
You got to put the hate aside.
Yes, I love it. It's a good way to end on that one. Alan, thanks so much. We appreciate you being here.